What holds you steady when life shifts beneath you? We live in an era that feels like a perpetual tremors, where politics ignite, economies tumble, and the bonds we thought were unbreakable begin to strain under the weight of a world that only grows louder. Society exerts a relentless pressure on us to evolve constantly, to chase every flickering trend, and to brace ourselves for every passing storm with a frantic, exhausted energy. It tells us that to be still is to be stagnant, to be quiet is to be apathetic. But Stoic wisdom speaks a different truth, one of an elegant, quiet rebellion. It suggests that strength is rediscovered not by running faster, but by standing still. This isn't the stillness of pride or indifference, but the stillness of intense focus. The Stoic doesn't deny that the world is changing. They simply refuse to be swept away by the debris. When the waves of chaos crash, you are not meant to be the wreckage tossed upon the shore. You are meant to be the beacon that remains fixed, illuminating the dark. To walk this path is to decide that your ethics, your virtue, and your vision are the only things that count. These are not decorative ideas to be pulled out for display when life is easy. They are your true guides when the storms hit. The world shifts. It always has and it always will. But you can remain. The philosophy of the internal fortress. At the heart of this unshakable posture is a single transformative realization. No outside event has the power to build or ruin a person. It is not the crisis itself that breaks us, but our judgment of it. This is the foundation upon which we build something that fire, flood, or failure cannot destroy. Consider the lineage of those who walked this path before us. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire plagued by sickness and betrayal, yet he did not beg for ease. He deepened his insight. Epictetus began his life in the chains of slavery, yet he did not curse his fate. He sharpened his thinking until his mind was freer than those who owned his body. Seneca faced the bitterness of exile and the shadow of death, yet he did not crumble. He wrote, and through the clarity of his words, he endured. Being rooted in principle means your character ceases to be a product of your surroundings. You do not become harsh because the world is cruel. You remain kind. You do not panic because the market trembles. You hold your calm. You do not collapse in despair because those around you are falling. You stand upright. You stop mimicking the chaos of the world and start mirroring your own internal ethics. Training for disruption. The tranquility we seek is not found in comfort. It is shaped in hardship. In the modern world, every ping, every scroll, and every breaking news alert is a test of your focus. Chaos thrives on your agitation, your scattered attention, and your soul-depleting energy spent on the irrelevant. It begs for your outrage and lures you to answer every insult. But reaction is not wisdom, and anger is not strength. The true Stoic understands that their focus is a sacred territory, to be guarded more carefully than a crown. This involves a deliberate practice of premeditatio malorum, the mental rehearsal of hardship. We visualize the blow in advance, not to suffer more, but to ensure that when the reality strikes, we do not freeze. We move. We are going to enter the Stoic perspective together. We are going to train for disruption. This is not about dodging storms, but about becoming anchored inside them. It is about building a soul like a vessel that can cross any current and stay afloat through any tide. Practical exercise, the evening audit of the soul. To begin your transformation from a reactive mind to a centered soul, we must move from abstract thought to written clarity. Use the following exercise tonight to begin building your internal hygiene. The ritual of reflection. The externalized step. Take a pen and paper. Untangle your thoughts by giving them form. Abstract worry confuses, but written thought clarifies. The sorting step. List 3 things that agitated you today. Next to each, ask, was this within my power or was it not? Be exact. The core question. Identify where your energy bled into what was out of reach, opinions of others, outcomes you couldn't control, or the ticking clock. The affirmation of remains. Write down one virtue you upheld today despite the noise. E.g., I remained patient when the news was frustrating. By doing this, you start to notice emotional traps before they spring. You begin to insert a pause, a sacred breath, between the trigger and your response. That pause is your power. Lesson 1. Anchored in internal truth, not external shifts. The first pillar of an unshakable life is the realization that no outside event has the inherent power to build or ruin a person. Only the judgments we form about those events hold that authority. This is the foundation of the Stoic fortress. To live with elegance is to draw a clear line between the world's volatility and your own character. We often feel that our moods are a direct result of our surroundings, that we are made angry by an insult or made anxious by the economy. But the Stoic perspective invites us to deepen our insight rather than beg for ease. We see this in the life of Marcus Aurelius, who ruled over a fractured empire plagued by sickness and betrayal, yet remained grounded in his principles. We see it in Epictetus, who was born into slavery but refused to curse his fate, choosing instead to sharpen his thinking until his mind was the only territory that mattered. To be rooted in principle means your character is no longer a product of your environment. Consider these shifts in perspective. On cruelty, you do not become harsh because others are cruel. Instead, you remain kind as a reflection of your own ethics. On economic fear, you do not panic just because the market trembles. You hold your calm because your worth is not tied to a ledger. On social despair, you do not collapse just because those around you do. You stand upright as a beacon for others. The world will constantly tempt you to abandon your inner station. It offers 1,000 justifications for losing your composure, telling you that rage is righteous or that cynicism is a sign of wisdom. But the Stoic knows that what feels justified is not always wise. Wisdom does not chase the applause of the crowd. It observes, reflects, and chooses a response from within. Your base must be so unshakable that no slander or upheaval can erode the stone of your character. Deepening the practice, the dichotomy of controlled journal. To transform this philosophy into a lived reality, you must practice separating the noise from the soul daily. This is hygiene for the mind. The exercise. Find a quiet space and a notebook. On a fresh page, create 2 columns. Column A, the shifting sands. List the external things currently demanding your energy, the opinions of a colleague, the outcome of a project, or the political climate. Column B, the bedrock. For every item in column A, write down the only thing you control in that situation, your perception, your effort, or your decision to remain silent. By externalizing these thoughts, you untangle the confusion that abstract worry creates. You will begin to notice that your worry lessens as your focus sharpens on what is truly yours to carry, your thoughts and your soul. Lesson 2. The art of preparing for disruption. Life rarely provides a warning before the ground shifts. A single message, a sudden betrayal, or an unexpected illness can erase months of momentum and shatter your certainty. The Stoic does not pretend these moments won't come. They train for them. They believe it is far better to stay ready than to be shattered by surprise. This brings us to the practice of premeditatio malorum, the mental rehearsal of hardship. This is not pessimism. It is a vital exercise for the spirit. Just as an athlete wins by building strength repeatedly, you must forge your clarity through the deliberate contemplation of difficulty. Mental preparation. Visualize the loss of a comfort or the sting of a failure today so that your spirit doesn't collapse when it arrives in reality. Reducing the sting. Pain and misfortune sting less when they have been seen clearly ahead of time. The power of the stumble. By facing hardship in your mind first, you declare, "If this happens, it might make me stumble, but it will not break me." You are training every day, whether you realize it or not. When your meal arrives cold, when traffic grinds to a halt, or when your efforts go unnoticed, these are not interruptions to your day. They are opportunities, dumbbells for your discipline. Every small inconvenience is an invitation to become stronger. If you only train during calm times, you will surely collapse when the storm hits. But if you use every minor frustration as a workout for virtue, you will eventually navigate even the most violent tides with ease. Practical exercise. Voluntary friction. To build the internal scaffolding that holds you steady, you must engage in voluntary friction. This involves small, intentional acts of self-mastery that prepare you for larger tests of character. The exercise: identify a trigger. Choose a small, recurring irritation, e.g., a slow checkout line or a cold room. The 5-minute visualization. Once a day, spend 5 minutes visualizing a more significant potential hardship, the loss of a plan, or the collapse of a professional goal. Script. Your response. Don't visualize emotional collapse. Visualize centered action. Ask yourself, if this happened, how would I maintain my ethics? How would I remain kind? Practice delay. When a small impulse arises, the urge to complain about the weather or check your phone out of boredom, delay the gratification for 2 minutes. This rehearsal breeds a rare form of liberty. You become free not because you control life, but because you no longer fear what it might bring. You have already met the blow in practice. When it lands in reality, you will remain standing. Lesson 3. Stillness as a weapon. Finding calm in the chaos. In the Stoic mindset, stillness is far more than the absence of noise. It is the presence of absolute clarity. We often mistake calm for passivity, but in truth, a centered spirit is one of the most powerful tools one can possess. The world around us is designed to be loud, rewarding impulsiveness and punishing patience through a constant stream of notifications, updates, and manufactured urgency. This urgency rarely brings insight. Instead, it encourages a reactive mind that swings wildly like a storm. The Stoic refuses to let their emotions steer the wheel. Rather than flinching at every provocation, they create a sacred space between the impulse and the decision. Within that tiny sliver of time, that single breath character resides. By refusing to trade peace for speed, you reclaim your agency from a world that seeks to monetize your panic and capitalize on your rage. Stillness as precision. Stillness is not laziness. It is the act of gathering your resources before engaging with the world. The power of the pause. Inserting a breath before you speak or act allows your values, not your pulse, to lead the way. Mastery over emotion. In the quiet, you realize you are not your emotions. You are their master, capable of filtering them through the lens of reason. Deepening the practice. The 2-minute sanctuary. To cultivate this unshakable calm, you must build stillness into your daily rhythm. It is a transformation that begins with small, deliberate intervals of silence. The exercise. The morning threshold. Before checking any devices, sit in silence for 2 minutes. Breathe and watch your thoughts drift like clouds, weightless and powerless unless you choose to cling to them. The high-stakes breath. Before an intense conversation or a significant decision, force a deliberate pause. Use this second to remember your values before acting in a way you might later regret. The journal of solitude. Like Marcus Aurelius, find your voice in the solitude of a notebook. Write not for an audience, but to find your core beneath the external noise. By repeatedly returning to this posture, you become a citadel of reason in a world ruled by impulse. Lesson 4. Walking alone without isolation. One of the most difficult aspects of the Stoic path is the willingness to be misread. Society places immense pressure on us to blend in, to lower our voices for a false peace, and to swap our truths for masks that fit the room. But the Stoic understands that agreement is not the same as courage, and being accepted is not the same as being true. Walking a path others avoid is not an act of pride, but an act of conviction. When you seek validation by silencing your ethics, you aren't achieving harmony. You are starting an internal war. The Stoic builds their life on the bedrock of virtue rather than the shifting sands of applause. Integrity as company. When your integrity is intact, you are never truly alone. You are accompanied by your own conscience and values. The echo of character. Applause is temporary and fades quickly, but the echo of a principled character lasts. The quiet rebellion. Refusing to participate in gossip or retaliation may make you seem out of place, but your quiet resolve will eventually teach more than words ever could. Practical exercise. The social boundary audit. Choosing yourself over the crowd requires a forge where resolve is sharpened. Use this exercise to navigate social pressures without losing your way. The exercise, identify the test. Once a week, pay attention to a subtle moment where your values are tested. Perhaps a conversation that turns toward gossip or a situation where honesty feels risky. The power of no and silence. Practice holding your ground with quiet resolve rather than defiance. Understand that silence has its own strength when it stems from truth rather than fear. Value alignment. Check. When you feel the sting of social disapproval, ask, is this a small price to pay for lifelong self-respect? Speak with weight. Choose your words carefully. Do not speak to impress, but to ensure your speech carries the weight of your ethics. When you can walk alone and not lose your direction, you discover that the crowd was never your compass. You find a rare peace that comes not from being approved by the world, but from being aligned with your soul. Lesson 5. The art of letting go, mastering the tide of emotion. The ultimate test of the unshakable soul is the capacity to release. We often mistake clinging for strength, imagining that the tighter we hold onto a relationship, a career status, or a specific outcome, the more power we have. In the Stoic view, this is a profound misunderstanding of nature. To cling to that which is fleeting is to anchor your happiness to a ghost. True power is found in the open hand, not the clenched fist. The Stoic practices a radical form of acceptance known as amor fati, a love of one's fate. This does not mean a passive resignation to misfortune, but rather an elegant embrace of reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. When chaos strikes, the reactive mind asks, why is this happening to me? The Stoic mind asks, how can I use this? By letting go of the demand that the universe conform to your desires, you eliminate the friction that causes suffering. The grace of detachment. Detachment is not coldness. It is the realization that everything we possess, our health, our wealth, our loved ones, is merely on loan from the universe. The power of release. When you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you liberate a massive amount of energy that can be redirected toward your own virtue. Neutralizing the blow. Loss only has the power to crush you if you believe you were entitled to keep what was lost forever. Deepening the practice, the view from above meditation. To master your emotions, you must learn to shift your perspective from the microscopic to the cosmic. When we are in the middle of a crisis, it feels all-encompassing. The Stoic practice of the view from above helps shrink our troubles back to their true size. The exercise: close your eyes and visualize yourself in your current room. See yourself sitting there, dealing with your current worries. Expand your vision. Imagine rising above your house, then your city. See the thousands of people below, each with their own dramas, joys, and tragedies. The planetary scale. Rise further until the Earth is a small blue marble in the vast, silent vacuum of space. Reflect on time. Consider the centuries that came before you and the millennia that will follow. Your current chaos is a single heartbeat in the life of the universe. In this vastness, your anxiety loses its grip. You realize that while your problems are real, they are also small. This perspective allows you to return to your life with a sense of proportion and a heart that is ready to let go of the trivial. Lesson 6. Discipline as the ultimate freedom. We often view discipline as a burden, a set of rules that limit our fun or restrict our spontaneity. But for the Stoic woman, discipline is the very architecture of freedom. Without it, you are a slave to your impulses, your moods, and the whims of the world. If you only act when you feel like it, you are not in control of your life. Your feelings are. Discipline is the quiet rebellion against a world that wants you to be distracted and soft. It is the commitment to do what is right, especially when it is difficult. This internal order creates an inner citadel that no external chaos can breach. When the world outside is in a state of upheaval, your daily rituals and your commitment to your principles remain the one thing that does not change. Routine as a shield. A disciplined life creates a predictable rhythm that grounds the nervous system when external events are unpredictable. The freedom of no. Discipline gives you the power to say no to distractions, no to toxic dynamics, and no to your own lower impulses. Consistency over intensity. Stoicism isn't about one grand act of heroism. It is about the 1,000 small, disciplined choices you make every single day. Practical exercise, the minimalist rulebook. To build this discipline, you don't need a complex system. You need a few non-negotiable standards that act as your compass. The exercise. Define 3 pillars. Choose 3 small disciplines that you will adhere to regardless of how your day goes, e.g., waking at a specific time, 10 minutes of reading, or a specific evening reflection. The mood-independent contract. Make a pact with yourself that these 3 things are not dependent on your mood. Whether you are happy, sad, or stressed, the pillars remain. Track the win. At the end of the day, acknowledge that you kept your word to yourself. This builds self-trust, the most important form of confidence. The temptation delay. When you feel an impulse to break your discipline, to scroll social media, to eat mindlessly, to lash out, tell yourself, I can do that in 5 minutes. Often, the impulse will pass before the time is up. By mastering the small things, you prove to yourself that you are the authority in your own life. When the big storms come, you won't have to wonder if you have the strength to survive them. You will have already proven your resilience every single morning. Conclusion: the architecture of the eternal threshold. As we draw this journey to a close, we must recognize that the Stoic life is not a destination we reach, but a posture we maintain. We have explored the necessity of internal anchors, the preparation for disruption, the power of stillness, the courage to walk alone, and the grace of letting go. Now, we arrive at the final understanding. Every ending you face is not an exit, but a threshold. In our modern world, we are conditioned to fear endings. We mourn the loss of a role, the fading of a relationship, or the closing of a chapter as if it were the destruction of our very selves. But for the Stoic woman, an ending is a transition, a sacred renewal. The death of one identity simply makes room for the next, more refined version of your soul to emerge. To live stoically is to be ready to release what is fading so that you may walk forward, unencumbered, into what is unfolding. The final lesson: living as the beacon. The world will continue to spin. Economies will fluctuate, social tides will turn, and personal storms will inevitably gather on your horizon. The chaos we speak of is not a temporary glitch in the system. It is the nature of the system itself. Once you accept this, you stop waiting for a calm period to begin your life. You realize that the calm is not found in the absence of the storm, but in the center of it. You are no longer the debris tossed by the waves. By applying these lessons, you have become the lighthouse. Your light, your character, your virtue, and your calm does not depend on the weather. It depends on the oil you provide through your daily discipline and your commitment to truth. The power of perspective. You now know that while you cannot control the wind, you can always adjust your sails. The victory of character. To suffer loss and still hold to virtue is the highest form of victory. The present moment. What is behind you is no longer yours to mourn. What is ahead is not yet yours to fear. What is here, right now, is your only territory. Final practical exercise: the architecture of the new self. To solidify this transformation, we will conclude with an exercise in intentional re-entry. As you step away from this script and back into the chaos of your daily life, do so with a deliberate blueprint. The exercise: identify the threshold. Look at an area of your life that is currently closing, a habit, a dynamic, or a season. Instead of clinging, ask, what new space is this creating? The virtue assignment: choose one specific virtue, e.g., courage, temperance, justice, or wisdom, to be your theme for the next 7 days. Every morning, ask, how will I embody this virtue if things go wrong today? The digital fast. For the next 24 hours, practice Stoic silence. Limit your consumption of news and social media. Notice how your internal noise levels drop when you stop inviting the world's chaos into your mind. The nightly benediction. Before sleep, do not scroll. Instead, look at your hands and realize they are the tools of your character. Say to yourself, the world shifted today, but I remained. Closing reflection. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Don't treat things you don't possess as if they were already yours. Be grateful for what's present and prepare for what's next." This is the essence of being unshakable. It is an elegant, quiet rebellion against the frantic pace of the modern age. It is the realization that your peace is not a gift given by the world, but a fortress built by your own hands. As you move forward, do not seek a life without tension. Seek a soul that is strong enough to hold it. Step through every door, whether it is opening or closing, with grace, with discipline, and with an unyielding commitment to the truth of who you are. The world shifts, but you remain.